G'day guys, today I'm going to be talking to Benn Guttmann. He's a Long Island City resident who's running for City Council for the 26th District, which covers Sunnyside, Woodside and Long Island City. The district is currently represented by Council member Jimmy Van Brammer, who is term limited. Ben, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks, Christian.
All right, well listen, thank you. Just tell us a little bit about yourself for people that aren't familiar with you, why you're running for office and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Benn Guttmann and I'm running for City Council to fight to save the promise of New York. The hard truth is that our city is in danger of slipping away. 1 in 5 of us in our borough is unemployed. 1 in 3 of our small businesses may be closed for good. But this pandemic has only revealed and accelerated what was already true. We do not have enough housing, especially deeply affordable housing. We do not have a functional transportation system, let alone one that prioritizes safety and sustainability. And we don't have the infrastructure or built environment equipped to handle our future. Our schools are crowded, nights is falling apart, and our policing is broken. I've started and run a small business in this community for 9 years. I've been an outspoken progressive on the community board for 5 years. I've graduated from CUNY, I teach at CUNY, and I want to build a future for our community, for my students, for my neighbors, for my family, that saves the promise of New York.
All right, wonderful. So just tell us a little bit about your business. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. It's interesting. So tell people out there what you do and, where you are and what you do in the community.
Yeah, for sure. So my company is a digital marketing agency called Digital Natives Group. We've been here in Long Island City, in fact, at the Annabelle Basin location since 2012. I've lived here for nearly as long. I've been a longtime champion of the community. In addition to the community board, which I mentioned before, where I'm a thorn in the side of powerful interest on the land use committee, the arts and culture committee. I'm also on the board of the Long Island City Partnership and the Queens Economic Development Corporation, 2 groups that have been vital engines for providing economic opportunity in our district. I'm the co-founder and host of Queens Tech Night, where we've had hundreds of neighbors come together to spur innovation. And I'm on the board of QNS Rail, an innovative proposal to affordably bring new subway service to our neighborhood using existing rights of way. Through all this, I've seen a community where all of our generation's problems are coming to a head, from inequality to racial justice to climate change. This district, Long Island City, Sunnyside, Woodside, Astoria, this is the center of the action.
Okay, yes. Obviously, you're part of many groups that are, pro-economic development. Then you're also involved with the progressive groups that, a little bit more cautious about these things. Can you tell us a little bit about land use, how you viewed Amazon, for instance, given you're a business person, but at the same time you have these progressive leanings?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, what I like to say, Amazon is the Hillary Clinton emails of this district. Some people cannot get over it, but what I'm personally concerned about is what's happening next, right? In the beginning, so going to Amazon though, in the beginning, I was of 2 minds on this. As you said, I run a business in this community. I know how great of a place this is, and I'm glad that they saw what I saw. I'm glad that people want to come and create and move businesses here and to create jobs in our community. That was a good thing. But, and it's a big but, I think the entire HQ2 search was a farce to begin with. That the package ultimately offered was unnecessary and tone deaf. We talked about the helipad, right? And they proved to be uninterested in being good neighbors time and time again. So there's no love lost with Amazon going away. They took their ball, they went home. We don't need them, we don't want them. I do have a concern of saying, we're done, that's it. Let's roll up the Queensboro Bridge. Nobody else is allowed to come here. Nobody else is allowed to work here. Nobody else is allowed to live here. I believe that attitude, especially when we talk about housing, of we don't want anybody else in our neighborhood, is only a hop, skip, and a jump away from we don't want anybody else in our country. And that's not what New York is about. That's not what Queens is about.
Tell us a little bit about your view on the Annabelle Basin today. You had the Your LIC group coming together. Um, Obviously with the public land being taken out, it's all in flux. But what is your thoughts on development in that area? Would you support large scale development, and if so, what type of development?
Yeah, so I am intimately familiar with that site. I've spent the plurality of my waking hours for the past 8 years sitting on that site. To be clear, we should probably be looking at ways to better develop that area. I like some of the funky stuff there. I go to Annabelle Basin all the time. LAC Flea when it's there is great. But development would help us better connect with the Queensbridge houses. It would help us nudge the community towards overall better integration, especially if we talk about moving the ferry stop from the south side of the basin to the north side of the basin, putting that within walking distance. We could also, with development, get much needed green space. We can get flood resiliency on our coast. We can get waterfront access that we don't currently have right now in that area. We can build homes for people who want to live there, space for businesses that want to employ those people. There is a way to develop this site properly. And I frankly do think that the Your LIC plan was a step in the right direction, though an imperfect one.
There was a lot of residential in those plans. I think 5,000 to 6,000 units. Half the space was going to be commercial. What sort of balance would you be looking for in such a plan?
Yeah, I think, again, having a business in the neighborhood, I'm aware of the interest in having commercial real estate. I'm aware of the benefits of having a live, work, play community. And I think that, it was a good thing that we saw a developer, group of developers that were interested in putting a place where people can work. We have to think of what the reality is going to be, in the next 5 years, next 10 years, when we look at kind of a post-COVID economy. I don't have the full answer to that. I'm interested in seeing what some of the data is going to come back with. But we need to walk and chew gum at the same time, right? We both need housing, and we need places for people to work, and creating a business district in this neighborhood, growing the business district in this neighborhood, is a good thing, as it reduces emissions, it reduces subway crowding, it builds our economy and opportunity. So that's a little bit of both sides.
Okay. Moving on to a little bit of a different topic, or totally different topic. Police, NYPD reforms and funding. What are your thoughts on reducing the funding for the NYPD in this current environment?
Yeah, look, the NYPD is broken, and it's been broken for quite some time. Walking around the city looking like me is simply a whole lot easier than it is looking like Eric Gardner or Amadou Diallo. And when the entire world was watching what was happening here over the summer, we saw incident after incident and video after video of cops instigating and escalating instead of protecting and serving. This doesn't get better by doing the same thing over and over again and continuing to incentivize the same things that we've been doing. Things need to change there. So first, answer about the budget, about the dollars. We're facing a generational budget crisis in the city. And yes, I think it's fair to look at our third largest agency to shoulder some burden here. Beyond the budget, though, there are other common sense steps that we can take right now to fix the police, or to begin to fix the police. Like every other city job, we should require a city residency requirement for NYPD officers. When you have an unrepresentative workforce that comes in from Long Island or down from Westchester, it's far too easy for cops to see the city as the other, a wild place that needs to be tamed or controlled, consciously or unconsciously. That's what can happen. Number two is we should dramatically step up training. That includes racial bias training of officers. Increasing the academy from where we are today at 6 months, something maybe more equivalent to an associate's degree, right? 1 or 2 years. And then finally, not finally, but the next thing is in domains from schools to parking to homelessness, and everywhere in between, we should explore ways to have cops do less. We need to look at ways to not use the blunt instrument that is the police to solve every problem that we have.
Right, okay. Would you keep the number of police officers on the beat
I think there's a good argument for attrition. Related to that, I'm also disappointed in what seems to be a politically motivated enforcement slowdown that we have right now.
Right. So you think there is a slowdown going on?
There's been evidence that points to that, and there's been talk and rumors about that, and it seems to be bearing out. So it's hard to write off that possibility.
Okay. All right. Community board, something you're very familiar with. Having how long have you been on community board too?
Going on 6 years.
All right. Okay. So the first thing dealing with community boards is appointments. What is your view on the way board members are appointed? And, would you do it in a different way than it's done now, where the council member has like half the picks, Queensborough president, the other half, but sanctions them all? What do you think on the process and who should be on it?
Yeah. So, I said before, I've been on the community board for 5 years. And I do have to give kudos to Council Member Van Bramer, to the borough presidents over that time, for really making the board more representative today than it was when I first joined. Mm-hmm. There's still a skew. There's still a skew in terms of age, in terms of race, in terms of socioeconomic background that needs to be addressed with new appointees for sure. One thing that's been talked about, and I do frankly think it's a bad idea, is direct election of community board members. Who needs 50 more elections every 2 years in this district with all the cost and the time that goes into that? And that's one piece, but the more important piece is when you have a direct election like that, it's a low information election. What's going to win is going to be real estate. It's going to be developers. It's going to be moneyed interest, lobbyists, because that's who's going to have the resources and the time to be able to influence those elections. Two things that I would like to see addressed on the community board front. One, instead of elections, but I would like to maybe see some sort of nominating petition, right? So can we collect a reasonable number of signatures from local residents in order to make your application, make it valid? This would encourage board members to be more engaged, be more representative of the communities. And number two, and this might be a little inside baseball, but I think that we need to look at how these boards are districted, because our neighborhood, here in Western Queens, is dramatically different than what it was 10 years ago. And these meetings can go 5 or 6 hours, both on the committee level and on the full board level. And that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help when constituents, when our neighbors need to sit for 5 or 6 hours to say their piece. It doesn't help the board members that have to sit there and are exhausted. And by the time they get to a really important vote, aren't able to give that mental energy after a full day of work, childcare, education, school, whatever it is, on top of a 6-hour meeting. The only people that benefits are the real estate lawyers being paid, $300, $400, $500 an hour to sit there through that whole meeting. Those are two, I think, common sense approaches we need to take.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You're a young guy, recently married, I believe. I'm going to talk about children. I'm not going to ask you if you're going to have any soon, but I'm going to ask you what can be done in terms of school seats in places like Long Island City, especially.
Yeah. Well, yesterday was my anniversary, so that's been it's been a fun week. So schools, we need to look at opportunities like Sunnyside Yard, but also other development projects throughout our district for ways which we can build more schools, as well as more hospitals, libraries, arts, community centers. Using the carrot of density, we can solve a number of our problems, including schools. Be it in the base of a building, on another lot, some other combination, we can build both quality housing and quality schools. But once we get them in the schools, to what's been going on very recently, right? This week and last week we're seeing a whole mess in other parts of our cities with this whiplash of opening and closing. That doesn't help our students. That doesn't help our teachers. That doesn't help our neighbors. I'm disappointed in the lack of preparation, the lack of communication, and what still appears to be a continued lack of planning from BOE as the school year goes on. When we get through this, whenever that is, we're going to have to look hard at ways which we can catch our students up to prevent a lifelong echo of this lost education. This might mean we expand school day. This might mean we expand the school year, or something else that helps us do right by our kids. I'm a part-time educator myself. I've taught at CUNY for a number of years. The issue is very important to me. We cannot let a year go by, a lost year go by, failing our kids in the wake of this pandemic.
Okay, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So next topic, one that I've heard you speak about before, and that's transportation. Transportation is a big issue, I guess, throughout New York City, but it's always been a big issue here in Western Queens with the 7 train, and then also with many more people cycling and walking to work or wherever. So can you just talk about that, your view on what can be done to improve transportation in the district?
Yeah, so, I think you hit the nail on the head. Transportation is obviously the lifeblood of our city. And, it's sad to see that we are now the city that sleeps, right? The subway is closed overnight. The biggie in transportation is when you look at, new subway lines. That is something that's really more on a state level. It's a hard nut to crack. I am a big fan of the QNS Rail project, as well as the Triborough project that's not quite in our district, because these offer solutions that are way more cost effective per mile, per stop, than what we're doing in the Second Avenue subway. We can build the entire QNS line, which uses existing rights of way to connect from Jamaica to Long Island City, and through a whole bunch of underserved communities. We can do that for the whole cost of less than one subway stop on the Second Avenue line. So that's the biggie. The area which we have more control of in the city is when we talk about bicycles and bike lanes. So this is a favorite topic of mine. Over the past 6 months, we've seen a bike boom in the city. City Bike is hitting record numbers. Bike shops have lines out the door. You can't buy anything online. And as people take to bikes, which are the healthiest, the greenest, oftentimes the fastest, and in my opinion, the most enjoyable way for us to get around the city, they're noticing that our bike infrastructure leaves a lot to be desired. Now, we obviously need to do things like close the southern outer roadway of the Queensboro Bridge and create a dedicated bike lane on the north side of that crossing. But beyond that, we need to dramatically expand our bike network, supporting plans like the one QNS Bike has put out for a clear and cohesive bike grid around our borough. We need to expand City Bike to cover our whole district and neighboring districts ASAP, which will open up doors for the whole city and improve accessibility to our businesses and our houses and our schools and everywhere in between. And to nip criticism in the bud about bikes, the data bears it out almost every single time that bike lanes are good for business, bike lanes are good for pedestrians, with decreased crossing distances that are more friendly for both the young and the old alike. All of this and more are part of a larger vision for our streets, which I'm looking forward to articulating throughout this campaign.
All right, wonderful. What did you think of the BQX, for instance? That was more city controlled.
Yeah, BQX, it's one of those things where if that's what we're going to get, I'll take it. It's better than nothing. But there was not a lot of evidence to suggest that BQX was going to meaningfully reduce travel times for anybody that was actually going to be commuting along it. Streetcars are, they're sexy. You put a nice glossy rendering of them on a website or a pamphlet. But ultimately, they're a really expensive way to solve problems that could be more effectively solved. Talk about bikes first, but also stuff like bus rapid transit. I think that it looks like BQX doesn't have much support, many legs at the moment, especially given our budget crisis. But I think that was really an imperfect solution to a problem that we have better, if less sexy, options for.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So Ben, just to finish up, are there any sort of thoughts or things you'd like to talk in terms of your campaign and what you're running on, perhaps that people should know about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for this campaign. There's a lot of great energy in this race, a lot of great energy in this district. If there was kind of a pet project or a pet, idea, the core passion of mine is, when we look, and and we've mentioned it already here, but my passion is really our street. I believe that both the built environment and how we operate it holds the keys to unlocking the full potential of our city. Streets are more than a quarter of the land in our city, and we need to look at this as a space that builds the community we want, rather than just a fact of life we have to deal with. This includes things like bike lanes and safety improvements, but also expanded outdoor seating for our businesses, outdoor retail, outdoor arts, pocket parks, garbage solutions, and a whole bunch of other ideas. That's an issue that I'm excited to talk about both during the campaign and then make a difference when we're in office.
Right. Okay, like Jessica Ramos over there in Jackson Heights is a proponent of making open streets permanent, open streets restaurants permanent. The mayor's going in that direction. Do you think that'll be great for Long Island City, Sunnyside, for instance, that new permanence?
Yeah, I think, again, when I was in college, when I was at Baruch College, we pushed as students to close 25th Street in Manhattan. It was one of the first public plazas as part of that program. And if you look now, it's totally transformed, that neighborhood and that campus. When we look at where it's happened across New York City, from Times Square to Dumbo to Corona, every time we've closed a street, it's helped businesses, it's made a safer community, it's created a gathering spot, it's become a place for arts. I think there is a lot of community benefit when you're able to reclaim some of that quarter of the city that we've just kind of sometimes forgotten about.
Okay. Well, on that note, Ben, thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. This has been great.